Welcome back to OpenLine. We are talking about, well, Nashville. Nashville has seen enormous growth. Some have been left behind. What can be done about it? Is it realistic that a committee can meet and come up with recommendations to make Nashville more economically inclusive? That was the charge for John Murphy and others. He's senior advisor with the Economic Inclusion Office for Mayor Barry. They came out with this report in October. We're going to go through basically some of the key recommendations here in a moment, but I want to take a call. I want to take a call here from Taylor. Hello, Taylor.
Good afternoon, Ben, to you and your guest.
Thank you, Taylor.
Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. What's on your mind?
Well, I've listened to this, and I've got just a few comments to make about it. And I will start out with the most extreme comment, and that problem that we're discussing here is a fact that this population is so financially illiterate, and I mean illiterate in all of its senses. And the problem is the education system from grade 1 through college does not teach folks about compound interest. They don't teach them about a lot of things that are involved here, and part of that problem is the teachers themselves don't know that much more. And again, you can graduate from college with probably 2 years of required math and still not know how to keep up with a checkbook.
Right.
If you don't know, I mean, I've watched people with a 5 or 6 year education that have themselves, through life and effort on their part, become very financially savvy concerning real estate or whatever. Right. I'm not saying you need a PhD in algebra or physics. I'm just talking about the common financial part of living and working, and this
I agree with that. I think you're absolutely right. You're talking about compound interest. There are a lot of people that don't know about that.
Well, that and just all the other things surrounding that, and
All right, so that's point. I like that point. Do you have another point, and then I'll let the guest comment?
Well, no, that's the main thing, and that's not something you can turn around in one meeting or one paper, but I just find it tragic all across the country, and it's not just in Nashville.
No.
Those low credit scores, all of those things get you in trouble, and you need to know that when you're 18 years old and a 22-year-old couple getting married with 2 car payments of $400 a month each. It sure doesn't give you any money left over to save for a down payment or anything else. So my point is, society needs to do a better job of letting people know that it requires money and it requires a job and certain things to get by in this world. And
right.
That's all I have to say.
I like the financially illiterate is what he said.
Yeah.
And that there are many people. And then he talks compound interest. That's true.
Yeah.
We were talking about payday loans before. When you start looking at the interest rate, it's 200 and something percent in some of these things. If you do the math, it's scary. But a lot of people don't do the math, or they don't know how to do the math, or whatever. The math isn't being done. So what about what he's saying there?
Yeah. I mean, I think, Taylor's point is absolutely spot on. I mean, education is the keystone of the bedrock, the foundation that we need to build on. And the Financial Literacy Subcommittee absolutely looked at what are the assets that we have right now. Tennessee is one of a handful of states that has a personal finance requirement to graduate high school. It's only a half a credit. We certainly believe that that personal finance can be used as a lens to view a number of different subjects, whether it's math, whether it's history. And the more we know about finance in those contexts, the better the student actually has at grasping the other information. Whether it's the Great Depression and the issues that we had around the stock market and inflation, whether that's learning about the gold standard. There are a number of different outlets that we can teach about finance that isn't just personal finance. And the Financial Literacy Subcommittee, I think, made very strong recommendations. In particular, the state sets the floor, not the ceiling. And the floor right now is that for a teacher to teach personal finance, they have to get certified. There are two certifying bodies in the state of Tennessee, but there's no requirement that teacher has to be recertified, or re-credentialed to teach it. And this is since 2008 we've had the statute. So when we're talking about learning how to teach personal finance, when that requirement went into effect, that was before Dodd-Frank. That was before the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was created. That was before some of the most recent financial regulations that have passed and financial policy that's passed. So the need for, and as Taylor pointed out, teachers also need to know this type of material and be confident to teach it. The Treasurer's Office, prior to joining the Mayor's office, I worked at the Tennessee Treasury Department, and this is one of Treasurer Lillard's passions, is to teach Tennesseans more about personal finance.
Do you think there's pushback from industry about not wanting to teach some things? Would there be pushback about maybe people don't need to be literate about compound interest or some of these things? Is there pushback when you say, okay, we're going to do this and this, and then there's like subtle pushback from industry, whether it be whatever, payday loan industry, whatever? No, I don't want to. We're not going to do that.
I haven't myself experienced any pushback from industry. I think, when we talk about financial inclusion and economic inclusion, it only makes the most sense, even for industry, that we have a more financially inclusive economy, especially for a state that and a city that has its revenue generated from consumers. We need more consumers in the marketplace to buy goods and services, but we also need them to be financially secure. So it doesn't mean using products that put them into more insecurity and create more toxic credit scores. That's a drag on the economy. That's empty dollars that could have otherwise been spent on, going downtown or going to municipal auditorium just down the street. It could have been used in a number of different areas, but instead it's being used for toxic debt repayment. So we want consumers to understand the pitfalls. We want them to identify good products versus bad products. We also want them to identify appropriate products. And Taylor's right, that starts a lot earlier than what we've been teaching it.
And we'll talk more about that in a moment. Let's take another call before we go to break here. Let's go to Lee. Hello, Lee.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think a lot of the problem we have here is started with the government. You talk about the payday loan. We have the payday loan in school. There are some of the schools here you go to, you do 2 years or a diploma, and you can't even transfer the credit to another school. I went to National College of Business and Technology. I did 2 years. I took a degree in pharmacy, and I could not transfer my credit to another school. I have to start over. So when I got the pharmacy tech job, I had to find another job so that I can work 2 jobs.
Right.
But the interest is so high, it's 6 points. So I pay $280 a month. 180 is the interest because they charge by a day. If you have 31 days, it's $3 a day for interest. So I put $100 to go to my principal. And that takes a lot of money from people. I cannot afford the house.
All right, let's talk about that. Lee, thank you for that. He's talking about debt when he goes to school, their student loan debt, and just that it's compounding and putting him further and further in debt, and maybe there were promises made that haven't been kept. How was that factored in? Did you all discuss that?
So we didn't specifically discuss private colleges or private education and the type of debt that a lot of individuals find themselves when using those types of educational products. I mean, I would recommend that Lee contact the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that specifically looks at this type of unfair, deceptive business practices. Certainly private colleges and universities that have taken advantage of some consumers fall into that category. And the CFPB has done an amazing job on ensuring that when consumers have been wronged, that they make it right. So I would absolutely encourage Lee to contact the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and make a complaint.
All right, we're going to take a break. Greg and others, hold on the line. If you want to call, there's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.